everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Late last year, the Fabric Data Warehousing team introduced data clustering in our Microsoft Fabric Data Warehouse. So the what, right? What is data clustering in the Microsoft Fabric Data Warehouse? It is storage level optimization that physically organizes our table data by one or more columns with similar values that are stored close together in the underlying files. So I can't believe it's already 2026. I wanted to talk about this last year, but here we are. So the why we may use this, right? We have repeated filtered columns. We have large tables. We have mid to high cardinality on those columns, and we have selective narrow scope queries. All right, that's the why we may use a data cluster, but let's put some considerations of best practices around those. I mentioned that this works best with large tables. It's going to work with large tables that are frequently filtered on particular columns. We recommend that you start with a minimum of 30 million rows on these large tables. It's going to work best on those high cardinality columns, for example, IDs or dates. Low cardinality columns aren't going to see much benefit from a data cluster. It will improve our selective queries, but we shouldn't expect to see an improvement on those full scans. Also, it could add write maintenance or overhead during our data loads. So those are just some best practices or considerations. To take a deeper dive into the Fabric Data Cluster, be sure to check out the provided documentation in this description of the video to get more detail on data clustering, best practices, and other limitations. All right, with that being said, let's head over to my Fabric Data Workspace. Over here, you can see I have my TPCC database. I have migrated this using a copy data job from my Azure SQL DB. I have all the tables I'm interested in there. The one I'm specifically interested in, though, for this demo is the order line table. And I'm going to show you here why I'm mostly interested in that. I'm going to do a select count star from the order line table there. And you're going to see it has a little over 174 million rows, close to 175 million rows. For a large table, it meets that 30 million row requirement. I here on the screen was trying to use Copilot, or did use Copilot, to come up with my create table statement. The first create table statement it came up with, it wanted me to cluster on those first three columns. That didn't quite work. So I needed to add an additional column, that OL_delivery D column there, in order to make this more selective. And I'll cover that towards the end of the video, why that really helped out there by adding that. Also, I want to note that you can either create a cluster on a table at creation time, or you'll have to do a CTAS. You cannot change an existing table to be a data clustered table. All right, with our data cluster table created, now what I want to do is switch over here to SSMS. You can see here in 22, I have the meaningful names, right? You can see the TPCC database doesn't have the old GUID in there. I ran a select count star there from my data cluster. You can see it has a little over 174 million rows. Now what I want to do is I want to run my select from my order line table that isn't data clustered. So let's go ahead and run that. Now notice here on the screen, I have an option label on there, not clustered. This is going to help us identify when we look at query insights, my not clustered query, the query I ran against my not clustered table versus the query I ran against my clustered table. I ran the second query here that executes against my order line data cluster 2. That's my clustered table, my data cluster table. Now, with those being run, now they ran really quick here by the magic of video editing, but I know one ran longer than the other. And we can vet out which query actually ran faster by looking at our Query Insights exec request history table here. This is where those labels that I put on the queries are going to come in real handy. Here you'll see I have 3 labels of not clustered appearing and 3 label of clustered appearing. Those are my runs against my data cluster table And those are runs against my order line table that does not have a data cluster. We can see that those that were clustered ran significantly faster when it comes to an allocated CPU time. Also, we can see that the data scanned against our remote storage had a significant impact as well, and that we had to scan a lot less data into our result set. So this proves here that when we have data sitting out there on our remote storage and we access that frequently, a data cluster table is going to come in handy, following all the best practices and considerations that we discussed earlier. One thing I'd like to note, once this gets read into memory, right, you'll see that we have the data scan memory there. You may not see as much of a gain from a CPU perspective. Now, I teased earlier, why are we seeing this performance improvement when we use a data cluster? Well, data clustering organizes our rows by those commonly filtered columns, so queries read only the relevant files. So this will reduce our I/O and compute for those large tables above 30 million rows, especially with selective where filters on them on high cardinality columns. And that high cardinality column in this case was that date column, that _D column we added. So adding the the order delivery _D significantly improved our performance on our data cluster 2 table. All right, some notable items here to finish this video out. Larger variable length columns, for example, of varchar 200 may degrade ingestion performance. Identity columns cannot be used for clustering keys. Clustering must be defined at table creation. We showed that here, that one way to change a table is to use its CTAS if you did not create it at table creation time. Also, this is going to benefit primarily query time and CU consumption, right? It is not going to help us on our load performance. And as a matter of fact, it may hinder it a little bit. All right, to dig deeper into the documentation, take a look at the links that are provided in the description of the video. It's going to help you get a better understanding or a deeper understanding of what a data cluster is within our Fabric data warehouse. Woo-wee, folks, we're almost a month into 2026. I wanted to get this out in 2025, but family, life, friends, you know, we got to put them first. Let us know what you think about data clustering in the Fabric data warehouse. Do you see value in it? Do you see some things we need to add? Are you going to use it? Are you going to go, hey team, we need to start using this because we're doing some remote scans on our storage out there and this is going to help with our performance? You know where we like to keep this going. In the comments down below, put them down there. Let us know what you like. Let us know where we could improve. Let us know what you would like to see in 2026. And most importantly, folks, be good to each other.
Call it replication. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be